pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. Dr. Travian Scott, he'll join me in hour number one. He's the Deputy Athletic Director of Southern University and the COO, Chief Operating Officer. Charles Edmond follows Dr. Scott, and then finally Coach Van Pettaway. I had previously scheduled Dr. Rusty Ponton, Director of Athletics at Graham State University, but of course, because of the inclement weather, the storm, I'm going to reschedule him for next week. Trending on the Carlos Brown Show, big story this past week, the Bayou Classic, spring 2021 version, moves to Shreveport, Louisiana. We'll talk a lot about that with Dr. Travian Scott and also get your thoughts and opinions on the move. The SWAC releases the 2021 spring volleyball schedule, and also the SWAC releases the 2021 spring soccer schedule. October the 10th, 2020, if everything was well, when I mean well, in a normal sense, Southern University would be in Montgomery, Alabama, right now getting ready for a football game in Alabama State's homecoming. The last time Southern and Alabama State met on the gridiron, Coach Jenkins was the head football coach in Southern University in a dominant performance all over Alabama State, 64-6. That was last time, but the Jaguars would be on the road, and many of your football teams that you follow in the conference would be playing today as well. So we're going to have a lot to discuss on today's show. Let me say first and foremost, situated in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and if you're in the Gulf South, this is part of the mainstream dealing with storms and hurricanes. And this 2020 has just been absolutely just unpredictable. So I want to thank the Creator once again for sparing me and my family to make it through. But with saying that, let's keep all of those affected by this latest storm in our thoughts and prayers. And while Lake Charles, Louisiana, and that area, 2 major storms in 6 weeks, that is unheard of. It's basically getting hit 1-2. And a lot of you are, suffering no electricity. You can understand that. And I even thought about just not having a show today. But I felt deep down, if I could, go ahead and do it. And for those who are able to listen, we appreciate you as always. But keep everyone in your thoughts and your prayers. And so many of you via text message through social media kind of checked on me, and I appreciate that. And I've checked on people to make sure that they're all right. So with that being said, just keep the state of Louisiana, parts of Texas, parts of Mississippi in your thoughts and prayers. And as I often say, this too shall pass, and we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So I've told you the guest list on today's show. We're going to be, of course, talking the big news Bayou Classic, moving to Shreveport, Louisiana Independent Stadium. So we'll get the latest information from Dr. Travian Scott of Southern University. As always, I'll check in and with Dr. Michael Prince, and good morning to you, Brother Prince. I appreciate the message that you sent me last night, going through this situation. So I want to say, as always, appreciate you.
Good morning, sir, and appreciate you right back. And know that what I tell you and share with you comes straight from the heart. And anything that I can do for you or your queen, man, is nothing but considered done.
Well noted and appreciated. And when it comes down to it, we are our brother's keepers.
Yes,
and
sir.
Sisters keepers.
Yes, sir. You got to be politically correct. You got to be politically correct.
Oh, yeah. And besides, they deserve all the praise. And if not, they're going to get after you. and you know, it's interesting, during the week, just the conversations that you have and several that I've talked to kind of going through withdrawals. And you know what? I didn't laugh. I could kind of say to them, what can Brown do for you?
Uh-oh.
And sometimes they just want to, you know, you just listen, and they're talking. They're going through withdrawals. They're missing at this point, October, it's getting a little cooler in most places. It still could be in the 90s here, and humidity. But you get the fall is in the air. Football is going on. They miss the tailgating. They miss the fellowship. A little bit of the smack talking. They miss all of that. And so sometimes you just sit back and listen, and then, you know, tell them it's going to be all right.
Yeah. You know what it's like? It's like when you were a child and maybe you did something that you wasn't supposed to do, and you had to sit by the window and watch the other kids play outside. Mm-hmm. And he went, man, I want to be out there, and they doing it wrong. And withdrawals, I can honestly tell you that I've been somewhat more removed. I wouldn't say having withdrawals, because that SWAC ball is not playing. It doesn't really let me get into the football season as I typically would when I'm pulling for my Panthers or pulling for the conference to do well on any given Saturday. And when you kind of look back and you watch the scores and you be like, oh, there are other teams competing. We're just not competing. So I can come relate to it, but I wouldn't say that I've had withdrawals. And people was asking, well, what do you do when you don't have sports? I said, well, you continue to move on and hold the banner up, but there are always things to talk about in the world of athletics.
And true. And within the conference, it pretty much every week is something that always is hitting. It's big, you know, whether it's bringing in a new coach with Coach Sanders at Jackson State. You have news and notes, like a listener, Edwin, says, is it a Bayou Classic or another SU versus GSU game? Well, they're saying it's the Bayou Classic, just moving to Shreveport.
Right.
And literally because heavy renovation is going to be going on at the Superdome. That's the bulk of the reason, too. And then, of course, you know, with COVID-19 and that situation, I'll ask Dr. Scott kind of walk us through the process, how they came to the decision. Mm-hmm. And it's a joint decision, albeit Southern's the home team. And, you know, did they consider other options? So we'll get into all of that. But there's always something going on. It really is. As we look, and we'll pull it up, spring volleyball schedule for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. They released it this past week for all 10 SWAC schools. You can go on SWAC.org and kind of go through the entire article. But week one will start January the 24th. And let's see. We've got it pulled up. Let's see. Prairie View at Grambling State.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. I chose Prairie View because I know you love the purple and gold.
Love it to
Peruvian A&M.
life.
Yes, yes. And then Alabama A&M at Southern, Alabama State at Alcorn, Jackson State at Mississippi Valley, Texas Southern at Arkansas, Pine Bluff. And you can kind of go through the rest, but it goes all the way to March 26th to the 28th, SWAC volleyball tournament. So they're going to be getting ready. You're going to have, and again, we say if they're able to do it, because they left the flexibility to say if the COVID-19 situation isn't where they believe its conferences should be, then they can, judge themselves accordingly, be flexible. And speaking of that, that's something else that you do at least once, twice a week, kind of see what's going on in that direction. And now with the flu season here, you're starting to see the scores, the tests, statistics kind of trending upward. So we'll see. And from a personal standpoint, hey, if you got to reconsider and look at the fall 2021, that would be all right with me. I would accept that. You don't have no choice.
You really don't. I mean, you either, sit in or sit out. That's it. You think you can go ahead and take the chances and weather the storm. And I'm not saying that, with pun intended, or you wait it out and then come out when the coast is a bit clearer. Because I don't think the coast will ever be as clear as we once upon a time knew it. And lives and things have forever changed, and we'll make the necessary adjustments, and you kind of move on.
Yeah. I mean, I know we'll get through it.
Yes, sir.
You just have to get through it and be very pointed in how you do it. So, it'll be interesting to see how all of this works together. Let's say on the good situation, COVID-19 is manageable, and then you have all these different activities going on. So they're going to be able to manage it. And if you're able to go, you'll go. If you can, or you decide not to, you can support in other ways. So with that being said, also looking at the situation on social media and talking with, once again, some of the people that are going through withdrawals, then discussions come up about, tailgating and miss that. And then I saw on Twitter, I believe, someone brought up tailgating and some of the best spots within the conference. And that is always interesting. I don't tailgate as I used to 10, 15 years ago, but every now and then I'll kind of take a peep and look at what's going on. People are very creative.
Oh, yes, sir.
I don't think y'all heard them out there. They're very creative in how they present the food, how they prepare it, what they have on display.
It's all about the presentation, though, right?
Well, presentation is one, but also it has to taste good.
Well, I know if it doesn't look good, chances are that it might not taste good. But so the presentation kind of goes with the taste factor. I would think.
Yeah, we'll put presentation in there. It's very important.
Yeah, because if it doesn't look palatable, I'm no thanks. I'll pass.
And I understand. Point well taken. And the creativity. Let me tell you, years ago, it had to be in the early 2000s. Southern at Jackson State. I get into Jackson Friday, as usual. When I'm on a road trip, I try to get in there early, and seek a place out to have the show. And I'm in Jackson. The weather's kind of like it was yesterday, just storms. Just didn't look good. So in the that Saturday morning, it's still the weather's not looking too good, and I hear people talking out in the parking lot at the hotel I was at. And lo and behold, there was a guy. He was a Southernite. He had brought his equipment, and he had prepared a feast. Do you hear me? A feast, a breakfast feast, and he was feeding everybody. Hotel management, everybody. And I happened to walk out, and he offered me an outstanding plate of food. But just creative. I mean, he took up 2 parking spaces. He had this huge trailer slash pit that he can barbecue, cook. The only thing he didn't have was tables and a chair set up. It was like a restaurant on wheels. So we are a creative people. And those are some of the things that you'll never forget. One other quick story. At Alcorn State years ago, tailgating everywhere, just smoke filled the air, and you walk around meeting and greeting people. And I see a guy that has a refrigerator on a trailer. I found that very odd. So knowing my personality and just being nosy, I went over and started to inquire, what a refrigerator? Man, what is this? And he was like, it's no ordinary refrigerator. He said, let me show you. He opens up the door, and inside he has his grill inside there. It was a pit.
A smoker.
And he said, come back in about 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to have this rascal fired up. So I followed instructions, and I came back. I could see the smoke coming out of the top of the refrigerator. You open it up. He had leg quarters. He had brisket. He had all kinds of meats inside. Even at the bottom of the refrigerator, he had sausage down there. I just thought I had never seen anything like that before.
I don't think you'll ever see it again.
No, and guess what? How you say it, how it's presented, looked pretty good. Offer me,
sir?
That's where I'm getting right now. I'm getting to that part. Don't rush me, Prince. And when I tell you, and of course he had on his Southern attire. He was feeding all corn nights and everybody. I've never seen anything like that before. And as you stated, maybe I'll never see that again. So if I go on to glory, that is a highlight that I will remember.
Now, here's the real question, sir. If that particular person had been dressed down in all corn gear, would you have eaten the food?
Wait a minute, say that again?
If the person that made that presentation with the refrigerated smoker, if he happened to have been an Alcorn night, would you have taken to eating the food?
Yes, sir. Creativity and presentation didn't matter. That was interesting. I very well would have. And besides,
you should have had a Kodak moment, taking a picture or a video, a little piece of video.
Well, actually, there was a company there that did a magazine, covering sports in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. They took pictures, and it was in their magazine.
Okay. I've never really been into the tailgating scene. I've never really taken to that. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't like it or appreciate it. It's just that to me, I don't want to go to the game and cook and then don't go to the game. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of people just go to tailgate just to hang out. And if I go to the game, I want to go to the game. That's just me.
Well, yeah, the game is the most important. You have activities surrounding the football game, and that is something that's been talked about at least on Southern's campus. Mind you, homecoming is at most institutions. It's a pretty good crowd, but that is a discussion that has been had within Southernites about tailgating. Some people will tailgate, and it's like they're not coming into the game. Now, we're not talking about the ones who are under the influence and they can't make it. But there are some that can make it.
No, that don't happen, man. That does not happen.
They choose a tailgate, and then they may be watching TV outside, listen to music. Oh, they may listen to the game via the radio and don't make it in.
Right. But to me, on our level,
you want people in the stand.
Right. I was saying it takes away from us. It's a wonderful scene, a beautiful scene, but it does not help the necessary bottom line that we so desperately need across the board, because it does no good to have 30, 40, 50,000 people on your campus and only 10 in the stadium. That defeats the entire purpose. I think, this is just me, there should be a no tailgating zone, okay? Once kickoff is done, okay, they should. I don't know how they would be able to enforce it, maybe added security, but shut down all tailgating activities and try as bad as you can. If they're not listening to the game, to herd them over toward the game. I don't know, but we need to figure something out.
Well, you want people in the seat in the stadium. Have your fun before and even after. But it's most important to have, bodies in the seat in the stadium. After all of this situation is over with, call me crazy, but I think you'll see a peak when everything, quote unquote, is back to pre-pandemic, if I can use that term,
or post-pandemic. Oh yeah, I guess pre-pandemic.
Yeah, you should see an uptick big time.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think that would take?
Now, how long will it last? But initially, boom. At least at most of the football games. Now, the big thing will be basketball.
Well, any indoor competition is going to be a challenge. Basketball, volleyball, I'm trying to think, bowling, all those indoor events, because the air circulation challenge. And
right. And we know that, if you look at that scale, that's, bars and indoor arenas, oh boy, it's not good at all.
Right.
Not good at all. So even this upcoming season in basketball, so I had a conversation with somebody, it's going to be without fans, in our humble opinion. You'll have personnel there, but we're talking post. You should see an uptick, big time uptick, but we shall see.
Well, here's a question.
Let's say 2022, 2023. How sustained it will be, that we don't know.
Do you think?
I mean, if you're averaging, say in basketball, if you're averaging 2,000 a home game, you would think you would see an increase above that.
You're very optimistic, my brother. My question was going to be, do you believe that the homecoming crowds will be what they once upon a time was?
Post-COVID?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
And you think by 2022 it'll be close to normal?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Optimistic. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You could send me a message at the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com, on Twitter, on Instagram, Carlos Brown Show, franchise_show on Twitter. Need to get more involved with Twitter. You can send me a question or comment there. Facebook Messenger, the Carlos Brown Show. You can send me a message through there. Before we get to our first guest, Carlos, I thought the game in 1973, the predecessor to the Bayou Classic, was played in Shreveport. I think all the ones complaining really couldn't find nothing to do up there. Well, hadn't really got to those who are complaining about the move. I'm sure some will disagree. You always have that. Yes, they did play the Bayou Classic in Independence Stadium in Shreveport once before. Now, I think some will just not go. They don't want to go. Some will, and COVID-19 restrictions will still be in place for this football game. Some will not be able to go because of that. Some will have, a compromised immune system. Some of our fan base are older. Can't forget about them. So, with that being said, some will just not go. I do realize some people are going to be upset. No, I'm not going to Shreveport. Not a lot to do there. You've heard that complaint. But then in New Orleans, oh my goodness, you can get in all kinds of trouble there. But it just depends if I know for the younger crowd, that's important. Because even that 4 p.m. game, you remember that game used to be at 1 p.m. on NBC, then they moved to 4 p.m. I'm sure the younger generation love that. The night before, they can just be decadent. And then don't have to get to the football game till 2 o'clock, whatever time they get there to get in there for a 4 o'clock game.
Carlos, let me ask you this question, man. Why does Shreveport get such a bad rap, man? Like I said, there's nothing to do. What you can do in New Orleans, you can do in Shreveport, because when it all boils down, what do the people do? They drink and party. They party and drink. You do the same thing in Shreveport that you can do in New Orleans. Maybe you have more access to do it in New Orleans, but Shreveport really and truly is the city that I think the conference should try to cultivate a bit more, because it's centrally located to every school in the conference. Really and truly. Well, and it's got a market that could carry us.
I would have to. What do you think out there? What's the deal with Shreveport? Now, over the years, South Louisiana and North Louisiana are totally different. Totally different.
I get that.
I've been to Shreveport a few times, been to a couple of football games. But I guess I want to hear for those who fall in that category that it's nothing to do there. I personally can't talk about it because I'm the type now. When I go to a football game, I'm going for the football game. I'm not going to the tailgating and all of that. But I wonder why is the reason that they feel that way. I'm sure they'll hit me up and let me know. Now, I know I've heard you say before about Shreveport, and you seem to think that's the best thing going outside of New Orleans. But I guess I just don't see that. But I'll see what everybody else has to say.
Thing going now, but
Shreveport is okay. They're pouring in now. Barrick says Shreveport is Texas. LOL. Their food is terrible and their culture is Texas. Oh, now Barrick.
Oh my!
You know what?
God.
You just started it.
Fired.
Because I heard Coach Falls at the press conference say and I paraphrase, the catfish and the food is just better in Louisiana.
Oh my God!
But every geographical area is known for something. Like in St. Louis, what are they known for? Barbecue?
Barbecue, baby. Barbecue.
Kansas City, Memphis, I've heard that. But now I'm a stick up for Louisiana, and particularly South Louisiana. There you go. See, you said South Louisiana for the second time. I mean, you get a variety. Now, seafood, and I understand I've been to restaurants in Houston that have specialized in Southern cuisine. But as the late Dr. Isaac Griggs said, often imitated, but never duplicated. So, Coach Bob, you're right on. That catfish is better. It's not the fish itself, but it's the spices. It's the soul and the seasoning that is put in the love.
So they don't have good spicy in Louisiana. Food in Shreveport? Is that what I'm hearing?
Put it this way. I got 100 on South Louisiana. on the presentation, the food, the spices, I'm betting on them.
Okay. Well, I mean, but man, if we all were talking about the economical impact and logical sense that it makes, why not Shreveport? That if we're talking about travel, cutting down travel, all these things that we may mention that we make a fuss about, we need to figure out a way to make Shreveport work.
Well, I'll put you in. You'll be over that committee. How about that? To find out how to get Shreveport more
Shreveport
involved.
Great again.
Well, because you're high on Shreveport.
Man, I'm
you
not
really
low
are.
on it. I'm not low on it, but
no, I said you're high on.
No, I'm just saying, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Just like the Alcorn move to the west made sense. Shreveport makes sense. It makes sense, man. There's enough money around there. And we could work some deals out, man, where we're the center of attraction. You don't have to compete with anybody. And it is in the footprint of the conference.
Well, Willard says hotel room is booked in Shreveport. He's there. All right, Willard. Houston is more Louisiana than Shreveport. And he's laughing about that statement. Another listener says, Brother Prince, Shreveport got casinos. You can get into a whole lot more trouble.
They got casinos in New Orleans. And
but again, y'all need to stay out of those casinos. I don't know why y'all do that.
I don't like giving up my money like that, so I definitely don't stay in them. No, sir, Rebub. You can't have my money like that. No. Absolutely.
Wow, this thing is, we've gone from A to Z already, and we're only 30 minutes in the show. Varick says, Shreveport is Texas. Laughing at, well, I think I said that one already. Their food is terrible, and their culture is Texas. Yeah, Varick, you started something. You started all of this here. Let's see, I've got some more coming in, but I need to get to the first guest. So I'll try to give you some more of these comments that's coming through here, and they're pouring in. But coming up in a minute or so, Dr. Travian Scott, and he'll kind of give us kind of the breakdown of what happened. How did they come to the decision? And also, next week I'll have Dr. Rusty Ponton on. I had him scheduled for today, but of course, with the storm coming through, he needs to be in a position where he can still take care of business there in Grambling/Ruston, Louisiana. So once again, keep thoughts and prayers for the people of all the people who are affected by the latest storm, Hurricane Delta, which now is somewhere in Mississippi heading north of there. It's moving pretty fast. But once again, in the city of Baton Rouge, they were able to kind of slip a punch for the most part. Going to take a time out. Once again, you can give more messages, comments at the Coles Brown Show on Facebook Messenger, and I'll be glad to get to it. But coming up next, Dr. Travian Scott. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Thank you, Dr. Prince. In a different time, different situation, you would hear that in Montgomery, Alabama today. But not happening today. But I think it's a pretty good song. Pretty good song. First guest, thank you, brother. First guest of today's show is none other, not a first-time guest, but first guest of today's show, Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director, Chief Operating Officer for Southern University. Dr. Scott, good morning to you. How are you doing, sir?
You know what? Everything is well. Family and I made it out okay. We don't have power, but you know, we're holding in there pretty well. I'm more upset though at my Lakers, and so I've got to deal with you this morning, dealing with the Jimmy Butler show. But my guys played well, and we're gonna be ready tomorrow. We're gonna go ahead and burst this bubble and get ready for our virtual parade in Tinseltown.
Well, I was gonna not talk about that till the end because the Lakers are still favored. They still are an outstanding team. And you notice, Dr. Scott, I give credit where credit is due. All I'm going to say is Anthony Davis, really, it's tough to defend that long 6'11" guy who has guard-like skills. But I will say this. You'll know you've been in a fight when you go up against a.k.a. the Pitbull, Jimmy Butler, and his young guns. But what a game last night. What a game.
Yeah, what a game. It's probably the best game of the playoffs. I can tell you, you know, we talk about, you know, having that killer instinct that the greats had, the Michael Jordans, the Mamba mentalities of the Kobe Bryants. But Jimmy Butler is fearless. And, you know, he put them on their back last night. I got to give credit to the King as well. LeBron is not too shabby, and he does it consistently year in and year out. But the night belonged to Jimmy last night, and if they're gonna win this series, if they're gonna tie this thing at 3, he's gonna have to do that night in and night out. So, yeah. I'm a huge Laker fan. Been a Laker fan since the days of Magic Johnson. Ran around as a young toddler with the Magic Johnson jersey on, and so I'm a proud Laker. But I can tell you that all the tradition and the history that we have, it just reminds you of those dog fights that we used to have with the Pistons and the Celtics when I was a little young pup, so to speak. And so Jimmy Butler, man, he's tough. He's as tough as they come, but hopefully he could struggle a little bit and we can go ahead and pull this thing on out.
I can understand those thoughts, and I can appreciate it. All I'm gonna say is this: Game 7 is Sunday for the Lakers. I would not want to go into Game 7. Then, as Charles Edmonds would say, then you're playing with house money. Miami has nothing to lose. But speaking of nothing to lose, now let's move on to the conversation with the Bayou Classic, now being played in Shreveport, Louisiana. And with that being stated, how did the Southern administration, along with Grambling State, but specifically with Southern University, how did you come to the decision to move the game to Shreveport?
Well, I think it's been well documented and well chronicled, what the Bayou Classic brings to the table, specifically, with the market that it has in New Orleans and what that city means to our state economy and our local economy and the Bayou Classic game, to be honest. And once we understood that, we knew where we were in terms of COVID and how that affected the city of New Orleans and their attendance. We had to kind of go to the drawing board and be creative and try to find some other ways to be able to the best of our ability, maintain the status of the game and what it means to both institutions, outside of New Orleans. And so once COVID hit, then that kind of sparked those conversations and had us, really trying to think and trying to achieve what I just stated. Once we decided we moved the season to the spring, obviously that brought about a different conversation with the Superdome being closed for renovations. It's my understanding that they renovate every year after football season, going into the Essence Festival for the next year. I think this year coming up, they're doing a little bit more substantial renovations. And so the facility, quite frankly, just wasn't available to us. One of the things that in our conversations with Grambling and our administrations that we sought to achieve was to keep the game within the state boundaries. It's an important economic boost for our state and local economy, and so that was the overall goal. Now we still know that there's some impending restrictions with as far as game attendance and percentages of the amount of people who can attend. But right now, I think that number is about 25%. So hopefully, as time begins to pass and we can kind of get through cold and flu season and start to move into 2021, those restrictions will be lifted, in our estimation, quite a bit. With that being said, Shreveport gave us an outstanding opportunity. They have a 55,000-seat stadium. They've got the requisite amount of housing via hotels, and their industry is able to support what we're trying to do. Never mind it being a little closer to that school up north. I think we can deal with that just for 1 year. But we wanted to make sure that, again, we could keep the integrity of the game in the state, obviously within the state boundaries, here for our local folks, from the, even from Arkansas to Louisiana, all the way to Georgia, where we attract folks. We get people all the way from California, from our alumni chapters, California, North Carolina, Washington State. I mean, folks come from everywhere. And so we wanted to make sure that we're able to protect that part of it. It is a more of a family rivalry, so we wanted to make sure that we can keep that as well. Shreveport stepped up to the plate and allowed us to be able to do all of those things, while not jeopardizing, again, the history, the tradition, the pageantry of what Southern and Grambling is doing. but also stepped up financially to a point where we can offset some costs as well. So we were able to achieve those goals. Again, we're really excited about it. We're not a direct benefactor of 2 Bayou Classics in 1 year. I think it'll be the first year in the history that's happened. And so, it's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. I think, this will probably be the only Bayou Classic in history where you can, boil you some crawfish and go to the game right after. We're anticipating, a fairly warm evening or afternoon. We haven't set the game time as of yet. But it'll definitely be a different environment, a different feel, a different atmosphere. But with these 2 great institutions, we look forward to it, turning out the same result in terms of what it does for HBCUs in general and what it means to our state and our institutions.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. With that being said, Dr. Scott, so you guys narrowed it to zeroed in on Shreveport. Were there any other locations considered, or it was just strictly, boom, we knew Shreveport was our best option, and that's what we concentrated on?
So it was a few other suitors, and I would have to applaud the city of Shreveport and their administration, their sports authority and their mayor's office for being very aggressive early on. Again, talks initiated earlier on when we first really began to understand where the city of New Orleans was in terms of their administration with this COVID-19 pandemic. And so, they were even, Shreveport was even directly involved at that point. We did take a look at some other facilities, some more local, some kind of in other parts of the state. Shreveport, again, provided the best opportunity for us and all the things that we sought to achieve. And so that's what we're going to play, and we're really excited about it.
Really excited. What has been the feedback that you've gotten after this decision has been made from alums, fans, and supporters?
Fairly positive, and that's encouraging. And I will say that it hasn't been all positive.
No, I understand.
I wouldn't dare get on here and try to paint it like everybody's 100% on board. And I would even address the negative feedback that I've read and that I've seen. And the Bayou Classic just isn't the same in New Orleans. Maybe not. We're surely going to see. But the Bayou Classic was not moved out of New Orleans because of Southern making a decision or Grambling making a decision. The Bayou Classic was moved out of necessity. So once the conference decided, once we decided as a conference, as a voting body, through our president and chancellors, that we were going to play a spring football season, obviously there had to be some changes with regard to the facility being able to accommodate our events. And that's for everybody. We just so happen to have our number called. It may have been, they tell me they have a classic every year in Alabama. I won't say the name of it because it's not the King of Classics. But, if we were in a situation where, maybe that facility would have not been available, then they would have had to make the adjustment. They tell me they have a classic at Labor Day every year. I won't say the name because it's not the King of Classics. And so if the SWAC decided to move the facility, then maybe that facility will have to adjust as well. It was just our time. It just so happened to happen by chance. And again, we've got great leadership on our campus. Grambling has great leadership on their campus. And so we made the decision in conjunction with, obviously, our governing boards and the city of Shreveport, the governor's office, and their sports authority. And it just worked out. And it was the best fit for all parties involved.
So, in other words, a word that's used for this year, temporary, making an adjustment. And speaking of that, a listener, Willard, says, and appreciate him listening, can you ask Dr. Scott to, if you can, comment on title sponsorships for the Bayou Classic? Is there an adjustment even with sponsorships with, moving the game to Shreveport?
Well, so traditionally, and it's been quite a few years since the Bayou Classic actually had a quote-unquote title sponsor. State Farm was the last title sponsor. And my thought is that title sponsorship lapsed, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. So with that, the Bayou Classic has levels of sponsorships. and I think it may have been gold, silver, platinum. I can't necessarily remember it now. Those sponsors are going to remain intact, as far as I know, for the New Orleans game. But that's given us the opportunity now to seek some new things for the Shreveport platform. So we're still going to do some other things. I was able to participate and engage in some meetings after the press conference on Monday evening and even on Tuesday morning, just discussing the ancillary events and what directions we want to take that in, and if we have them, how many we have if we do have them. And so there's some opportunities for the city of Shreveport to bring on some new sponsors as a result.
Well, thanks for that question. We'll appreciate it. Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer for Southern University. April 17th, Bayou Classic in Shreveport. Some key points. How about tickets? Will they go on sale pretty soon?
Yeah, so we look to have tickets on sale beginning in November. Obviously, with the holidays coming up, we want to make sure that we can capitalize with our fan base and with the other fan bases and the folks who want to see the game late in the year. It'll give us, again, a rough forecast on exactly how many folks, are interested or coming or paid in light of where we are statewide with the facility limit in terms of how many people you can host. So we'll start with that, and then we'll be able to build on it in the coming months as those restrictions can become more lax, I should say. And so we should have season tickets or tickets for the Bayou Classic or both on sale before the middle of November, is what I understand.
Activities, events that are associated with the Bayou Classic. What is the status on those events? Will you have those as well? And if you're going to have them, when will that information be put out?
So my belief is that information will most likely be put out around that same time. And obviously we would put those tickets on sale as well. And again, we had some preliminary conversations about the ancillary events after the press conference on Monday and early Tuesday morning. And we seem to be trending in that direction now. In terms of how many events or how robust that programming will be, we don't know as of yet. But we look to be able to at least have a few events to complement the game and to complement the weekend.
Because, Dr. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, Louisiana is basically in phase 3 with the COVID-19 situation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you said earlier, in the best case scenario, in the stadium, what will be the percentage, the COVID-19 percentage that would be most beneficial to both Southern and Grambling State?
Well, the best case scenario is 100%.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying in the COVID-19.
Well, I think it's possible. I think it's going to be dependent on a few different things. Obviously, if the curve flattens, if we have a vaccine, what the state and local officials are looking at doing. As you well know, just because we're in phase 3 doesn't mean that the mayor or the local municipality has to go with all of the guidelines therein. So, with that being said, the mayor of Shreveport would obviously have the autonomy and the authority to say, hey, we're going to keep this thing at 25%. My guess is that we'll be somewhere between 50 and 75%. My hope is that we'll be more trending more towards the 75. And again, if this thing turns the way we're anticipating at this point, with the warmer weather and things of that nature, hopefully we can get lucky and benefit from 100% capacity.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, COO, Deputy Athletic Director at Southern University, discussing the Bayou Classic, moving to Shreveport in April 17th. So, Dr. Scott, ticket prices not yet set. 1-year deal for Shreveport, correct?
1-year deal.
Okay, just want to make sure. It is important to keep dollars in the state of Louisiana. You would agree with that, correct?
Absolutely.
Tickets will go on sale soon. That information will be coming out. Events around the football games will be staged. They will let the population know about that as well. But I want to kind of get back to, if we could, you mentioned about most of the feedback that you've gotten is positive. Give me an example, sir, of the positive things you've gotten back, and then we'll follow it up with some that are not so positive. I'm just interested.
Sure. So I can tell you that we've received feedback about the importance of keeping the game within state lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the primary thing. It gives Northern Louisiana some exposure as well. That's been a great positive for us. It gives us and exposes us to more of the Dallas market, more of the Southern Arkansas market, Northern Mississippi, and Southern Tennessee. So it gives us a broader perspective, so to speak. You know, it gives us that extra oomph in terms of visibility and viability, and having folks have the ability to be able to come down. Obviously, the spring is something new and different. That's a benefit as well. And I talked about it earlier, that the environment around the spring game should be festive, around a spring game, not the spring game, should be more festive. And so that's more or less, I guess, the theme, if you will, of more how the positive commentary has gone. And so, again, not all positive, but definitely more positive than negative at this time.
And an example of what you're hearing for those, I guess the reasoning why that it's not a good move, and I know we've had a slight discussion on the show today about some that complain about the game.
What were those comments? What was that commentary?
Well, it's not a destination city. It's nothing to do. You have casinos, but it's not like New Orleans, et cetera, along those lines.
Well, and that's a great. But there are cities like New Orleans. I would think that New Orleans, to me, is probably one of the better cities in America in terms of tourism, in terms of culture, in terms of all of those extra things, in terms of benefits that you want out of a city. And so I would agree with that. But again, this is not an opportunity for us to move the game because we want to. It's an opportunity for us to move it out of necessity and to be able, again, to keep it within state lines. And whatever city you choose outside of New Orleans in the state of Louisiana is not the city of New Orleans. So we knew that going in. But again, this is a unique opportunity for us, for the city of Shreveport, to obviously flex their muscle and to give us a glimpse of what the city of Shreveport can do. Maybe we want to schedule a future contest there, maybe not. I don't know. We will see. But I understand that basis. But again, this was done completely out of necessity because of the Superdome undergoing renovation.
Right, and let us not forget that. Quickly, here's something else I'm hearing. I think you'll find this interesting. And thanks for listeners that are sending in the comments. Considering the options, I prefer Shreveport. What are the preferred cities of fans that are complaining? It does not make sense to move the game out of Louisiana again. Here's someone else. I agree. The game should be in Louisiana. Shreveport presented a good package, and it was appealing to GSU and Southern. So there you go, Dr. Scott. Maybe 70-30, 80-20 percentile?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, and don't get me wrong, I think the 20 constructive criticisms are warranted. But I think when you look at it, the overall picture, you've got to consider the importance of keeping the game within the state of Louisiana. I remember 2005, and it's funny because we had a hurricane on yesterday. But in 2005, when Hurricanes Katrina and Rita hit, we moved the game to Houston. Houston is one of my other favorite cities. I love it. I frequent it all the time. But the game just wasn't the same because it wasn't New Orleans. Not that Houston is so bad, It's just, as a Southernite or a Gramblinite or a supporter or a stakeholder of the Bayou Classic, we've become accustomed to all that New Orleans has to offer, right? And so we knew that. We know that. We know that the same thing holds true for Shreveport. But again, our goal is to make sure that we can protect the integrity of the contest, that we protect the pageantry of the game, and that we keep the game within the state of Louisiana at a critical time where revenues have been halted because of this pandemic, that we can do something to boost our own local economy at the state level. So with that being said, again, I'm really excited about the city of Shreveport. I'm really excited about what they've done, their mayor's office, their sports authority. Their community has embraced our game. Again, and I don't know if you had my colleague David Rusty-Ponton, Dr. David Rusty-Ponton on yet, but it's a little closer to the school up north. That's fine. I mean, I think the game being in New Orleans every year is a little closer to us than it is to them, and so that's only fair. But we look forward to some of the best coaching, from some of the best institutions and some of the best players, and one of the best rivalries in sport. Where it's played at this point doesn't matter. I look forward to that issue on one helmet and that G on that other helmet. And I look forward to having a great Bayou Classic on April 17th. So, again, still very excited. Excited. I had an opportunity to actually talk to Coaches Stobbs and Coach Odom for quite a long time on Monday at the press conference. And they're excited. Two great guys, two great coaches, run two great programs. Coach, 200 great men between the two of them. And the championships, the conference championships, the division championships shows for it. And we're going to have that all on display on April 17th, whether that be on the turf of the Superdome or the turf of Independence Stadium. We're going to have some great football and something to look forward to.
Well, we appreciate the time, as always, giving out the information. And, we could have got into some other things, but it was mostly wanted to kind of give information about the Bayou Classic and moving to Shreveport. Because Dr. Scott, I think basketball is a totally different situation that, you're going to have to deal with. But like this situation, you'll deal with that accordingly and try to make the best decision and, gather all the facts and information and make that decision. So, 2021 football season quickly, officially done, and you just wait to release that when the appropriate time comes? Or are you still working on it?
No, we're done with 2021. We'll have that information. I would guess now with the spring football season kind of upon us, we'll probably wait and release that more into 2021. Usually we release that information. We try to release that information in November. I'll check back and make sure if that's what we're going to do. If we do, then that information is ready and ready to be presented. And I talked earlier on the show, maybe a couple of weeks ago, about how far in advance we look to schedule. And so I'm looking to do something in as far as 5 to 7, maybe even 10 years out. So I'm looking at as far as 2030 at the current moment. So if that happens, it'll give us the ability to be able to plan ahead. We look, obviously, when we look to schedule contests, that supports Coach Odom's tank of gas philosophy, that supports where our alums are and where our stakeholders are to be able to come out and support our program. We support contests where our student athletes, quite frankly, want to go in and compete. And so those are the three tenets that we look at when we're scheduling games and contests, and we're going to continue to do that. And not only that, from a game guarantee or being able to play games outside of Marshall Stadium standpoint, but we also look to create some interesting matchups within the stadium. I think it's been well documented about the Morehouse game and how that kind of worked out with regard to the double scheduling. But, that was an effort for us to be able to bring in an opponent that can achieve the same things I just spoke of, that has a large alumni base within the earshot of our area, that has some appeal in terms of their name and branding opportunities, and, that can come in and do some things, with ticket sales and things of that nature in the game environment that will support us being able to, make sure that we can have an environment that's representative of the Jaguar Nation. And so, we look to achieve that 4 or 5 times a year. Our other goal is to be able to have at least 5 home games. We were well on the way to doing that. We had that achieved this year. Obviously, with the conference moving in a direction to add 2 new institutions, that kind of helps us as well. And so we'll move to an 8-game format, and then have the opportunity to be able to schedule out of conference. So, that's what our goals are. That's what we look to do. Try to get 5 home games, try to create interesting matchups, try to support our coaching staff and their tank of gas philosophy. And again, try to have competitive contests for the student athletes that not only are in our program, but the student athletes who we're recruiting as well, because they want to see the schedule when they're taking those official visits and getting ready to sign their national letters of intent and all of those things. They want to know who you gonna play in my 4 years here, or my 5 years here, or my 6 years here even. Who's on the schedule. If I'm from Georgia, or would you be willing to go to Georgia? If I'm from Florida, would you be willing to go to Florida? And we try to achieve those things, especially obviously in football and men's and women's basketball. So with that, I'll stop and answer any more questions that you have. But it's an exciting time to be a Jaguar. Again, we've got 2 seasons within the standpoint of 8 or 9 months. And Carlos and Dr. Prince, I'm going to tell y'all, I haven't even gotten to address that school up I-55 yet. So I'll stop right there and address any questions if you guys have any.
Well, some people are saying they hope the football gods align that before the pandemic hit, those 2 teams that were coming on an attractive home schedule, they are reaching out to me, hoping that those 2 teams happen to show up at Mumford of 2021. And, boy, I'm just going to tell you, that would be exciting. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Let's see, I did have a quick question. Alyssa wants to know the basketball schedule.
So the basketball schedule is up. The NCAA actually made some adjustments and starting on November 25th. Men's basketball schedule is complete. You can go to gojagsports.com. That information has been uploaded and is available. I'm putting the finishing touches on the women's basketball schedule. We should have that before the end of next week. Got a couple more conversations to have, contracts to sign, and we'll have that ready as well. So finalizing one, completed the other. Looking forward to that. Not just men's and women's basketball, but we're getting ready to release our volleyball schedule, our soccer schedule. We're going to have 15 sports and cheer now, because we sponsor cheers as a department, going on at one time. So, for all of the rest and relaxation and boredom that we had this fall, we'll be quite busy this spring. Our hands will be full, and we'll do a lot of travel, but we'll support all of our programs. So we'll have 15 sports and cheer going on during the spring, and we'll invite the Jaguar Nation to come out and support. We'll be able to craft some ticket packages around being able to go and watch Coach Garrett or Coach Jackson or Coach Jacobs over in volleyball to begin the day, and then finish the day with Coach Odom and the Jaguars inside of A.W. Mumford, as well as Coach Woods and Coach Funch's Jaguars and Lady Jaguars on the hardwood as well. So, again, we're finishing those things out. We're going to have a lot going on. We ask for your support. We're going to do some things to try to garner your support, Jaguar Nation, by creating those packages. And we look forward to a great fall, a great spring season from the fall 2020 to the spring 2021 year.
You got time for one, maybe 2 more?
Yeah, sure.
Questions? Alyssa wants to know about upcoming construction projects at Southern University. And then the next question, it's a question, a comment. How do you plan on staffing these games all at once?
So I'll take the construction piece first.
Yeah.
So I'm actually getting ready to submit the master facilities plan. A.D. Banks and I gonna put the finishing touches on it this week, and we'll look to do some things with locker room spaces for some sports, restroom facilities, and locker room spaces. And I'll be specific. We're looking at working on an agreement with our softball program where we're able to add locker room space in a covered batting cage. We're looking at a space right now to add to our baseball facility with covered batting, indoor batting cages, classroom space, and field renovation. We're looking at being able to put locker room spaces over in the field house, over in our soccer facility. We're looking at improving our locker room space and being able to provide locker room space in Seymour Gymnasium, not only for our volleyball program, but for our cheer team. They're competitive as well. And the last project I'm looking at is and this is a pitch. It's probably a little preliminary for me to say, but looking at the possibility of trying to do an indoor facility for football as well. Now that's in conjunction with finishing up a theater space for our men's and women's basketball teams as well. So we've got our hands full with facilities. And I think the last question was how we were going to staff all of our sporting events. Well, yeah. We're going to staff them the way we've always staffed them. Obviously, we have a company that we utilize. We're going to be fairly creative, and I'm heading this effort with how we're going to do it from an administrative point of view. Obviously, with some of the contests running so close, the SWAC has done an outstanding job with being able to kind of spread them out to the best of their ability to kind of give us some balance and give us the ability as administrators to not get worn out and worn down in such a short period. And so I say that because I believe our first football game rather, is February 26th at Alabama State. But we've got a home basketball game. Our last home basketball game is the very next day. So obviously, AD Banks, myself, and some of our other senior staff and executive staff members can't be all in one place at one time. So from an administrative standpoint, we've already been able to work out a plan to be able to accomplish that, while also making sure that the general staffing of the facility is in place with regard to our football contest, our baseball contest, our softball contest, our soccer contest, and our volleyball contest where we now charge. So it sounds like a lot, but when you get used to it and you do it every day and you do it as a living, it's not as bad as it may sound. So again, exciting time. Can't wait for it to happen. Think our student athletes deserve it. Coaches are chomping at the bit to get their student athletes out and ready to go. I had a conversation with all of our coaches, head coaches meeting on Thursday, and all of them are singing the same tune. Like they're ready to get after it. Student athletes have performed admirably in the classroom. They've done great work in the community. And now it's time for them, while continuing that work, to be able to get in, get bigger, stronger, faster, and get ready to compete and represent that SU on their respective uniforms. So, again, really exciting time.
Boy, it'll be interesting. If a team is successful in the spring, you guys will be hosting a SWAC championship. And that's another story in itself. Dr. Scott, appreciate the time as always. Questions are still coming in. We'll have to save it for another time. And just let me know if you want me to get Jimmy Butler to come and talk to the student athletes about toughness and being resilient and persevering and getting all of that good stuff, because he is a pit bull. I'll be glad to do that for you. Yeah. Lake show all day long. Oh, I understand. But guess what? I love the Heat. Old school 90s basketball play. But appreciate the time, Dr. Scott. Be safe, you and your family, and look forward to talking with you again real soon.
I do as well, and as always, go Jags.
Go Jags. Go Jags, go SWAC. All of the above. Going to take a quick time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Charles Edmond. Then I'll get to Coach Pettaway. I wonder what Coach Pettaway has to say about everything that's going on. And we'll read some more of your comments. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2! Weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Do you know what's up with Ryan? He's been acting weird and he's not hanging out anymore.
He borrowed money from me and still hasn't paid it back.
His girlfriend broke up with him a couple weeks ago. Said he was more into his sports app than her.
He may be addicted to fantasy sports. We need to get him some help.
Sports betting and fantasy sports can have serious consequences. Know somebody with a gambling problem? Get free and confidential help. Call 1-877-MY-LIMIT. That's 1-877-695-4648. Or go online to opgr.org.
I'll visit now with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning. How about them Heat?
Well, I just love the way they play. They're tough, and they are mentally, physically tough, and I couldn't be more proud of my NBA team. I do realize what is ahead. I know the Lakers were heavily favored, and the Lakers are going to come out Sunday, and I wouldn't say they're back to the wall, but the Heat should expect the best, the Lakers' best. But I know I'm in the minority as far as, liking the Miami Heat, but that was a very good game last night. Very good game.
It was classic down the stretch. LeBron and Jimmy buckets going back and forth, and at the end of the day, Danny Green had an open shot, and that's what they brought him there for. He could knock it down, but hey, it's still 3-2, and I said Lakers in 6, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen that way. We'll have to wrap it up tomorrow night, but we'll see. I think Miami's got some life, and we'll see if Anthony Davis is healed. If he's a little nicked up, and that could be a factor as well.
Well, you speak of Anthony Davis, and that's to me, he's the most dangerous player on that team. I know what LeBron brings to the table. You can't question LeBron. I would not ever get into the conversation if he's a top player of all time. I'll leave that up to you guys. But Anthony Davis, that's a nightmare to try to cover him. So, with that being said, they're going to have to beat Miami. The Game 7 for the Lakers is tomorrow, Charles.
Yep.
Use your analogy. It's house money the Heat are playing with. And if it goes to Game 7, what do you think the psyche, who the pressure goes on then? Many people thought the Lakers were going to sweep the Heat. So,
I think the pressure is on. If it gets to Game 7, the pressure is definitely on the Lakers because it's all about LeBron and him winning a championship in his third different city, Miami, Cleveland. He was brought to L.A. to do one thing, and if he doesn't get it done this year, if they blow a 3-1 lead, it's all going to fall on LeBron. That's why he makes big bucks, and that's what it's about when you bring a superstar like that in. It's all on him. He wanted Anthony Davis. He got him. So, yes, this will fall at his feet if the Lakers blow a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, well, if you're going to Vegas, I'm sure the odds are going to be with the Lakers to win it. They were the favorites, so hey, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But either way, it's just what a ride, what a season for the Heat, and the future looks bright. The future looks bright. Speaking of looking bright, I'm sure you were just looking at that press conference, and you are a Grambling State alum, the Bayou Classic in an ordinary year now being played in Shreveport.
Yep, I'm a Grambling true and yes, to see that the Bayou Classic is still on and at another location. I think you have to give Southern and Grambling a lot of credit, as well as the Bayou Classic folks for making it happen in Shreveport. I wish I could make that one. I was texting you early in the week saying that I will probably be there, but I think we play Jackson State that Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's the case, obviously I won't be there. But I'm glad the Bayou is still alive and well, albeit in another location due to other factors. So, hey, that's a good thing, and hopefully people will spread out the attendance, what the capacity will be. I'm sure if it's 15,000 or whatever it is, it'll sell out quickly, because if not, you still would have a good crowd regardless if there wasn't any capacity limits on it. So I'm glad to see the Bayou Classic is still on, albeit a different venue, and I hope folks go out and support it. It looks like they will, based on what I'm reading on social media. People got their hotel rooms rather early, and look, Shreveport's got the casinos, and it's not like New Orleans where you got thousands upon tens of thousands of rooms available. But I'm sure as we get closer to the Classic, if it means if the West is at stake again, I'm sure the city of Shreveport and Bossier will be bustling with activity with Grambling and Southern fans.
Now, you mentioned you wanted to go, but you may not. You can't go because Alcorn and Jackson State will be playing.
If I'm not mistaken, I gotta look. I gotta look at the schedule. But I think from what I saw early on, after we texted about it, I want to say that we played Jackson that day. But if not, I haven't really looked at it. But if not, then I definitely would like to go. It's 170 miles from my house, straight I-20 west, and it's a straight shot. So it would be a game I definitely would like to check out, because it's been for the West for so many years, and I think it'll be for the West again. I don't see anyone pushing Southern or Grambling for the West. I think Prairie View's got some work to do. Clearly, Texas Southern and UAPB bringing up the rear. I think those are the two best teams in the West, and I think it'll be the Bayou Classic in Shreveport for the West again.
And it's interesting because you look at it's funny how matchups occur. It reminds you of the NBA, and what I'm about to say, it's been said before, but if you kind of look at the last 2 years, Southern has had the best of Grambling State. Southern hasn't had the best of Alcorn State. We know that. But then Grambling has had the best of Alcorn State. Prairie View. They've defeated Grambling State 2 straight years. Isn't it interesting how one school will do well against, like Southern, I think Odoms has done very well against Jackson State. Isn't it interesting and funny how these things work out sometimes?
It is. Just the pure matchups. I think the matchups, it's been tough matchups. Southern and Alcorn, it's just been a tough matchup for the Jaguars, especially on the defensive side. trying to stop, the Braves' running attack. And look, the Alcorn system offensively has been the same for the last several years since Willie Simmons was offensive coordinator. The system has not changed. The pieces in the system have, whether it's Arnold Walker, Nico Duffy, Anthony Williams, whoever's running back there, whoever the running backs that we have, Southern has had issues with it. The last couple of years, as you mentioned, it's been Southern, handling Grambling, albeit last year, you look at just how shocked, Grambling fans were, and I was shocked. You have one of the best defenses in the conference, at FCS and Grambling, and, they had a big, 21-3 lead, and the Jaguars were
big
back.
lead.
Big lead. I mean, so, you look at what Prairie View has done, to Grambling over the last couple of years. But, with the SWAC changing, with a couple of teams coming in, those dynamics are going to change a little bit. But I think this year, if you look at the West, I still think the two top teams are Southern and Grambling. I think Prairie View's got some work to do. Their defense was not that great last year, even though Dooley can scheme you up and put a million points on the board. But you got to be able to stop people. Texas Southern still has some work to do, second-year head coach and a first-year head coach at Dr. Gamble at UAPB. So it's going to be some work. We don't play Grambling this year either, and that's a factor on that side of it. So I think this year, due to COVID-19 and kind of a reduced schedule, more so conference than anything, I think the dynamics have changed a little bit, but I still think, on the western side, in my opinion, the two top teams, Southern and Grambling, unless there's a major upset with one of those teams, maybe against UAPB or Texas Southern, I still think those two teams are the best on the western side.
And do you think if they're to play a 2021 spring season, wouldn't you think maybe at that time someone is ripe for an upset or a team doesn't get off to a good start, because it's an unusual circumstances playing in the spring 2021. And I get the impression that quite a few people are also looking forward to the fall 2021. There are still some doubts about the spring, because of COVID-19 and what will it really mean. Are you getting that same vibe?
Yeah, if you just look at the FBS, look at LSU losing to Mississippi State. You see Oklahoma and Texas get off to shaky starts. So on the FBS level, with limited reps in practice, limited time, yes, it is ripe for an upset. And yes, there will be opportunities to get back on the field. But I do think with that gives the underdog an opportunity to try to provide upsets. And right off the bat, if you look at the Eastern Division, we open up at Alabama A&M. That's one of the games of the year in the conference. Right off the bat in Huntsville, where it's going to be probably 30 degrees, a 1 o'clock kickoff, most likely, 30 degrees there. Weather's going to be a factor. It's going to be cold. And we know that was one of the games of the year last year. It came down to the final play. And, I'm sure the Braves will be ready, A&M will be ready, and whoever loses that game will already be in the hole because you have a limited schedule. You don't have a lot of time to work out the kinks. Because you're right in it right away with no non-conference games. So, yeah, I do think that there's opportunities for upsets simply because of the amount of time that you normally would put in, and with this compacted schedule, there are no cupcakes, there are no exhibition or scrimmage or non-conference games where you play up or play down. There's very little, if any, of that. I think Jackson's got Florida A&M and on the schedule. That'll be fun, but again, that's an opportunity to kind of work some things out where some schools don't have that in our league. It's kind of mainly conference games. So yeah, they're all ripe for upsets. That's why you really have to get off to a good start in that spring 21 season, because you don't have a lot of games and you don't have a lot of time.
Should 2021 spring, if it takes place, should we just quite simply cut coaches and players, some slack? And meaning, if it doesn't go the way that you think the season should go, should more emphasis be put on fall 2021?
Absolutely. I think I've said that on your show before. Well, we might have texted about it. I personally believe, and this goes for the pros as well. I mean, we've seen NBA coaches get fired. We've already seen NFL coaches get fired. I just think, and I know it's not realistic because of the amount of money that's made or lost, COVID-19 impacts every human being, including athletes, pro, college, high school. I think coaches should be given a pass. And I know a lot of folks might disagree, especially on the pro level, making all the money that they're making. I mean, in the NBA, the bubble, I mean, that impacts people differently. I know you're supposed to focus and all that, but come on, we're all human. On the college level, you know, you're getting tested every day. It's just different dynamic. You're really not supposed to go anywhere other than the facility class. I mean, not a lot of congregating. It's just kind of a different dynamic. And I think in the conference, once spring 21 starts, you know, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of emphasis with coaches across this conference to, hey, go to class, don't hang out, don't congregate in large groups. I mean, we've seen these outbreaks. They're going to continue. The experts say it's going to get worse as we get into the fall, and probably in the spring too, for the most part, especially when we start. So I think that, yes, I do think there should be, you know, a little bit of backing off when it comes to the pressure on these coaches, because these are 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and you just don't know. And I might be unrealistic. I might be naive, but I think that, you know, you got to be a little cautious when you're dealing with this, because everybody, ADs, presidents, dealing with enrollment and finances, coaches, players, it's all different. It's all different. And I think we just need to just pump the brakes just a little bit on, you know, getting rid of people, because you don't know how people react. The mental aspect of this virus, once we get through the testing and you find a solution, then the mental aspect, that's going on now. People dealing with this mentally differently, student athletes. So to answer your question, yes, I do think that we need to pump the brakes a little bit. But do I think that's going to probably happen? No, I don't. Coaches are getting fired. College coaches already on the hot seat in some instances at the major levels. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. But, you know, reality will probably kick in, and some coaches in the FBS level will probably get fired probably before the season is out. And that's just unfortunate, in my opinion.
Well, 2021 Fall SWAC Football Media Day. Hopefully that's going to be on, and hopefully we'll see a lot of familiar faces on the stage and in attendance. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, after that point, you know, sometimes it may look a little different, but it'll be interesting to see how all this works out. But valid point. Have a question. Ryan wants to know. Ask Charles how he will prioritize broadcasting of games at the same time on campus, since you do most sports.
Well, what I've been told by our media relations folks is that the times will be staggered to where we'll be able to have early games in football, and then if basketball, baseball. I think obviously football takes first priority for me. Once we get through football, then I think on the back end of it, I think softball and baseball, and I'll deal with that as we go. It's really no different than what we've had with basketball and softball. I mean, obviously football is going to be the main thing. And once we get through that, then we'll just kind of go from there. But I've been talking with other broadcasters in the conference and early in this pandemic in March and April, I'm like, man, if we got a spring season with everything going on in the spring, how are we going to make it work? And basically, this broadcaster say, hey, we got to make it work. And so it's no excuses with that. You know, we're only one person. You know, we can get other people to help us out if need be. But I think for the most part, I think the ADs realize the importance of broadcast now. I think more than ever, Carlos, because if you think about it, there's going to be limited attendance at these games, most likely. So a lot of folks that normally would go probably won't be going. And now you really have to rely on your online stream, your radio. I think there's more emphasis on that now than ever, because you won't have packed arenas. You won't have packed stadiums. So, you know, the importance of being able to broadcast and really get it across to folks are more important than ever. So, you know, you want to be able to get as many broadcasts in as you can, because attendance will be limited on site or on the road or whatever the case. So, yeah, I'll be able to make it work. It is going to be a challenge, but hey, this is a new norm. Nothing is normal. Nothing is usual. Business as usual is not at this point. So I'm kind of prepared for it, and I'll do the best that I can to make the adjustments. But it's going to be a lot of work in the spring, that's for sure.
Yeah, and maybe schools can, with their broadcasting network, can really lean on students in mass communication and broadcasting for that extra help. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, as we get ready to close this segment, discussion on social media about the broadcast guys in the conference, and a lot of love thrown your way to you and Dean Barnes, and Dean, especially he helps you out on the away games. You know how he feels about a play or how the team is playing. He gets straight to the point. But for all the guys who do the radio broadcast in the conference, I commend them for just doing it. And you guys are the eyes for those who are not there. There are people that are at the games, but you'll see them with the headphones on. They're still listening to their particular broadcast. And so you know you're doing a good job when you see that. And I'm seeing more and more of that as I go to the games in the conference.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone that's listening and supportive. I mean, Emmanuel Barnes was one of my mentors when I got to Alcorn. I didn't know anyone when I got to Alcorn State University, and I was looking for a partner to do the games with me. And somebody said, "Man, you need to talk to Emmanuel Barnes." And from there, the partnership started, and it's been going 30 years ever since. And he bleeds purple and gold. He loves Alcorn. He gets on the officials. He's hard on them. He is tough, and him and I have had discussions about it. He said he's gonna slow down, which people don't change. It's not when you're in the heat of it. When we play Southern and Jackson, every call just kind of you all know how it goes, and that's kind of the deal. That's kind of the way it works. But we appreciate all the support. You've been helpful as well, Carlos and Dr. Prince. So I mean, I can't do this by myself. It's been, a great support network of other broadcasters, Chatterbox, Dwayne Lewis, yourself, Dr. Prince, Dean Barnes, and there's Rob J., one of my mentors. So it's not just me. It's been other folks that have really helped me out to, really paint the picture. And hopefully that'll continue in this challenging time that we have. It's going to be a challenge this year with the limited number of games and just trying to stay safe and be socially distant. I've been watching a lot of games on TV and how they're trying to be distant. And I'm taking notes as well as we get ready for the radio piece of it because, we all have to stay safe.
Yeah. Unusual times, but we'll get through it. Well, continue to practice being safe. Be safe to you and yours, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Appreciate the time as always. We'll talk again real soon.
All right, be safe out there, and let's go Heat.
Wait a minute, you're a Lakers fan, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I am a Lakers fan, but I like what the Heat did yesterday, though. It makes it a series.
Yeah, you got to respect the effort, huh?
Yes.
And I'll give kudos where kudos are due if it comes to that. You know my saying. Sometimes you're going to go down, but it's how you go down. On your back or standing up? I think the Heat have answered that question. I really do. Have a good one, Charles.
I appreciate it. Be safe, everybody.
All right. That was Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Take a quick time out. When I come back, Coach Von Petaway. He's not fishing today, I don't think. But we gotta get a fishing report starting to add that, I guess. I don't like to fish, but I like to eat fish. Does that count? I don't know. I'm in the sports paradise, as they say, in Louisiana. And by the way, some of you are taking shots at Louisiana food. Oh, indeed. I can witness to the greatness of Louisiana cuisine. Take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more, and we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Yes, you can. Welcome back to this final segment of the Carlos Brown Show here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Going to visit now with Coach Van Pettaway. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
You're not fishing, huh?
No, not today. Not today. Delta is put the damper on the fishing up here in North Alabama. We're getting parts of the rain that's coming from that storm.
Yeah, boy, it's amazing how and Hurricane Delta moves so quickly. I mean, now in a couple of days it'll be on the East Coast.
Oh,
yeah. Not of course as a hurricane, but Mother Nature is still very powerful.
Oh yes.
But I saw the pictures last week that you sent me of you fishing. Was that catfish and what was the other fish?
Bass, white bass, or striped bass. Yep.
Boy, filleted.
Yep, filleted, and then the traditional way for some people.
Yeah, I understand.
Bone in. Yep, some people have to be able to pull that meat off the bone themselves.
Yeah, my mother was like that. God rest her soul.
Yep.
Not me. At 8 years of old, a very dramatic experience trying to pull that meat off, like you said, and got a little piece of bone in there, and you would have thought I was on the way to glory. I screamed and I cut up.
Yeah.
And
right. At 8 years old, you were probably being a little too greedy and eating too fast, and that's how you got it.
Yeah, I was. You nailed it. I believe my mother told me, son, you got to toughen up. Don't eat the bones. And to this day now, I like filet. But you nailed it, Coach Pettaway. You nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, I had a hearty appetite even at 8 years old.
Yeah, I love fishing. that's what I go to relax. If a lot of times before a big game, if it's not too cold, I'm out on that water the morning of the game just to relax, because there's something about that water just brings about a calmness, and it's very relaxing for me.
And the Huntsville area is very beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Believe it or not, someone was talking on local radio about beautiful campuses, and this person didn't go to an HBCU, but he mentioned Alabama A&M, and I thought about the times that I've been there. It's very beautiful, and some things I must do. I've never been on Prairie View A&M's campus. I hear it is, and just from the pictures I've seen, very beautiful.
Yes.
I need to visit all of the schools in the conference if I hadn't before I go.
Right. We have a lot of beautiful campuses in the SWAC. As a coach, I've been able to visit them all, and even during my non-conference times, I've seen most of the HBCU campuses. There are a couple up on the East Coast that I have not been to personally, but we do a pretty good job. And my hat's off to the presidents and the people that are putting their money where their mouth is by making sure that they have beautiful campuses.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at some of the conversations been going on because of what we're dealing with as far as the pandemic, but just to read the comments on social media sometimes, how proud they are of their institutions, and you have a little bit of smack and trash talking, which is acceptable, and then they talk about their experiences there, and then you see now they're talking about tailgating and some of the foods that they prepare in their tailgating situations. And that leads me to this, Coach Pettaway. Have you ever had duck gumbo?
Oh, yes.
Duck and andouille.
I've had it in Louisiana. I've had it at Southern on the campus. When we first got into the SWAC.
You slap your grandmother, boy. I'm going to tell you.
I'm telling you.
It has to be bad to slap your grandmother.
It tastes so good, your tongue will slap your brains out, man. It's just amazing, man. But our first year in the conference, our president, Dr. John Gibson, he wanted to make that trip to Baton Rouge. And I went with him. We all went down, most of our athletic department. We came to the Southern game, Southern versus A&M. And our president just wanted to see what some of the other SWAT schools were doing. And he was impressed with the tailgating. We walked that campus and watched the different people with all the different setups. And we were invited into one of the male dorms where they gave us this big bowl of gumbo. And we took that weekend to come up with ideas as to how A&M would set up their tailgating. And those ideas came from our sister SWAC schools, because we just visited the other schools, and then we took a little bit from this school, a little bit from that school, and then he came up with his own policies for tailgating. And now tailgating is one of the biggest things going at Alabama A&M for football. Even though you probably won't have it this year, but to watch and see how creative people can be cooking outside and coming up with different dishes and coming up with different spreads, it's awesome. It's awesome.
And speaking of that, I would like, and communicate with me some kind of way, each institution in the conference, what tailgating recipe or what's the favorite there?
Right.
And just drop that to me. I'd be interested in seeing, because I think you're right. You can get something, learn something from each institution in the conference, and like the Magic City Classic. I've never been there. Some of my colleagues have been, and they just tell me that's something, a bucket list. That's one. The Florida Classic.
You got to do that. You must do that, man. I'm telling you that. You got to come to the Magic City Classic. because it's more than just a football game. They start on Wednesday in Birmingham for the Magic City Classic. And you have 100 people tailgating, 100,000 people tailgating.
Yeah.
Yep, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they don't all come into the game now. That's the problem. You have more people that are tailgate during the entire game than coming in. But we still get enough in the stands to where, if I'm not mistaken, A&M and Bama State still drew the largest crowd for the largest black college classic. I think we still have the record for that.
Well, and I'm sure someone's going to say, no, it's about your classic. It's the Magic City Classic.
No, it's Magic City. Yep.
But that's on the bucket list to do, the Florida Classic. I need to make a Labor Day Classic between Texas Southern and Prairie View.
Right.
You know, uh-oh. What was that? What did you say about the Prince?
His comments are catching up with him.
I said, make sure you bring security.
I need security in Baton Rouge, so it won't be it won't be something that I will be like, oh my goodness, is it that bad? No, I'm the people's champion. but especially definitely basketball, because there is a budding situation between Southern and Prairie View in basketball. Now, see, I always thought it was Southern and Texas Southern. You know, as far as you can feel that kind of tension. But now,
it'll happen in basketball now because
it's still there.
I experienced it. You know, for 4 straight years, excuse me, I had to go to Prairie View with my own bodyguard. Yes, I did. They had a young man named Burks. Burks was their point guard out of Detroit. And we shook him up pretty good at our place. When I say shook him up, we rattled the kid to where he got thrown out of the game. Right. And so while the game was going on, he called his father back in Detroit. His father had a long, threatening message on my office phone. The kid told his dad that I sent my players after him, and they roughed him up, and so he threatened my life. Mr. Burks threatened my life, and he says, I'll be waiting for you when you come to Prairie View. So my chief of police, I let the administration listen to the message, and so the next 4 years, I had a bodyguard every time I came to Prairie View. Mr. Burks showed up. He didn't bother me. He tried to intimidate me, but it didn't work.
Detroit, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a true story.
Oh, unbelievable. Yep. At first, I thought, I was like, what? Really? You serious?
Look, I got to chime in. There's some truth to that because Burks was a classmate of mine. And
is that right?
Yes, sir. And I remember that so well. I believe Burks wore number 5. Look guard out of Detroit.
Yep.
And,
little guard?
Yeah, he was a point guard.
Yeah, he was point guard.
His son was a little small point guard.
Yeah.
But he could play now.
Oh, yeah, had good ball skills. And I do kind of recall that now. That was back in my let's say my more enthusiastic time in my life, Coach. So you might have had security for me too on that one too. So I do apologize about that, Coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you know what? That just made it fun. I really wasn't concerned. I mean, I knew, I said, well, if this man made it all the way down from Detroit just for this game, he might have something on his mind. But it didn't stop us. It did not stop us. We ended up with a great rivalry. And then Burks and I, the player, you know, he and I made amends his senior year.
Oh, that's good.
You know, because I didn't do anything intentionally to him. It's just that my kids were ready for him. I had them pumped up, ready to play against them because at the time he was one of the better young players in our league.
Interesting story.
Yeah,
and that reminds me. And Dr. Prince told me about Jimmy Butler and Dr. Prince.
Yes, sir.
What did you tell me again about you knew Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, well, Jimmy Butler went to Tomball High School.
Yep.
While he was at Tomball High School, I was administrator for the district. And young man had a very challenging upbringing.
Yeah, I heard about
a lot. I won't put all this business out there, even though it's public information, but it won't be coming from me.
Right.
But tough as nails back then. And when he went to Marquette, you knew basketball was going to be the impact on this kid's life. Not that he would make it to the NBA and do what he's been doing, but it was his way of escape from the realities that many kids like him that we will never hear of endure. And their escape is through athletics, man. And that's why I'm so proud of him. And I don't do a lot of name dropping and stuff like that because it's not my season. It's his season. And, but you talking about a dedicated dude, what you see is for real. It's not made up. And he had to develop that thick skin and that toughness and get out of my way and let me get this done.
And he's getting it done.
And speaking of that, and good point there, Dr. Prince. What I had heard about him before he got to the Heat, not a good teammate, just somebody that just you can't trust. And then the minute he gets into Miami, you see a lot of what was said about him. Don't believe it because what he talks about and do have you guys listened to him during the post game?
Yes.
He talks about a team.
Right.
His guys. He's tough as that. And you know, I was screaming last night. I thought he was going to get ejected because he didn't back down from Dwight Howard.
Right.
And this guy is tough, Coach Pettaway. And
man, he's my type of player. I love him, man. He's my type of player, man. I love guys who wear their emotions on their sleeves but have it under control. That's what you need. That's what coaches are looking for, man. That's that that you cannot coach. They got to have it in them.
He's driven.
Right.
You got
they have to have that dog in them.
Coach. You got two type of ball players, and I know you've seen this throughout your historical coaching career. You have players that are driven and those who are not.
Right, correct. Those you have to drive.
Right. And a player that is driven, people that are not driven are the ones that say he's a bad teammate or he's hard to get along with because they're lazy and they don't. A person that's driven does not want to be around a bunch of slackers because he's on a mission and he will challenge you and put you to the test.
Dr. Prince, you hit the nail on the head, and that's what happened to him when he was out there with the Timberwolves. Those guys around him could not handle his personality. It wasn't that he was a bad teammate. The guy wanted to win, and it was in him to win, and he was trying to show those other guys out there how to do it, and they didn't want to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, and leads by example, and you know, I watch. I know it's a team game, but there's also some individual battles going, and he does not back down. I mean, him and LeBron are going at each other. It just reminds, you know, I made the comment that it's 2020, but you're watching a Miami Heat team. It reminds me of a 90s NBA team.
Right, the Pistons. Yeah. Yep.
And now, with all that said, I still understand the Lakers are the favorites. They will come out and they're going to be very ready to play Sunday.
Well, the pressure's on the Lakers now, though. The pressure's on them.
Yeah.
Because they came into the series as the favorites.
Heavy favorite. Heavy. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that game tomorrow. But last but not least, I've got like a minute left. In your coaching career at Alabama A&M, is there somebody quickly that we're in the same situation as Jimmy Butler was in that you coached?
Yes, I've got plenty of kids who had that rough upbringing, but basketball was their savior. And we'll have another day to talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hear the music in the background.
Yep.
Well, as usual, be safe, and when you can get another day in of fishing, we may start getting a fishing report.
All right.
Of course, I'd like to see what you catch.
Okay, fellas. All right. Hey, thank you guys, and God bless, and everybody stay safe.
Same to you. Same to you, Coach. We'll talk again real soon. I want to thank Dr. Travian Scott, Charles Edmond, and Coach Van Pettaway, and Dr. Michael Prince producing today's show. And those of you who interacted with the show today, continue the conversation. In a little bit, I'll jump off and I'll try to answer, go back and forth with you on topics that we talked about on the show. Until next time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Coles Brown Show. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. And as always, peace and God bless.